Yeah. All right. Jeffrey, I like how you left and then you came back with that with that picture. All right. Thank you guys for joining. This is the college prep meeting for our senior graduates now. And we gathered an amazing group of college students to share their secrets of being a successful college student, especially that first diving into the college experience. So I will introduce the graduates, and then I'll turn it over to Tim. So can you, if you will show your face, would be great. During the presentation, you don't have to, but just to say hi before we share our presentation. Can you, Michaela, Jeffrey, Davian?
Hi, my name is Jeffery.
All right, Jeffrey is headed to UMich. Here's Michaela. Wave for us, Michaela. She's headed to Tuskegee in Alabama, and Davian is our special guest. He is headed to University of Louisville. And I don't know where David just ran off to, but he went to the bathroom. He's headed to U of I. Okay, and I'll hand it over to Tim.
You forgot Matt.
Oh my gosh, Matt, hi. Wave, Matt. Matt is headed to Wheaton College, and all of you are starting your freshman year, jumping into college for the first time, and we just have a great group of college students who are just a little bit older than you. And here's David, U of I, Champaign. He's my neighbor as well as my nephew. All right, Tim.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Jenny and Christine. Let me just share my screen quickly. Can you guys see it? Okay, sweet. So yeah, my name is Tim Yoon. I'm a rising junior at Emory University. And today with me, along with some leaders of change, we have Hana, Josh, Samantha, Danny, Seungmok, and me. And we'll just be talking about, some important stuff that we think you should know, especially with your first year entering into college, which, is definitely a huge milestone. But yeah, let's just dive right in.
All right. Hi, guys. My name's Samantha. I'm a rising sophomore at Bradley University, and I study nutrition and dietetics. So for academics, studying tips, the biggest advice I can give is to preview material before lectures. So for me, this looked like doing notes on Sundays before the week. That way I knew what the professors were going to cover, and I could come up with questions I had that I could ask during office hours or even during lectures if I got the chance. I'd also suggest typing notes during the lectures, because sometimes the professors talk really fast and you don't have a chance to write everything down. But if you are someone who needs to handwrite things, you can always go back to your dorm and do that at another time. As for office hours, most professors have those on the syllabus. And sometimes like an email is sufficient if you have like a quick question about a worksheet or assignment, but don't be afraid to go to office hours. Even if like you're not able to go to the office hours that the professors set, most of the time they're willing to meet with you another time. As for tutoring and study groups, I would say most schools offer tutoring services through the academic center. I know Bradley has 2 hours of free tutoring for math, science, and English, and that's every week. And then study groups, some classes make a group chat. Sometimes that gets overwhelming with like 100 kids in the group, but try to make friends in different classes that you can do homework with, and get familiar with people in your major, since you'll be seeing them a lot over the next 4 years. Test wise, I would say read through the notes and make Quizlets or flashcards for review. Some classes will have practice exams that you can look at, but start to review, I would say like a week before the quiz or test, and try to do most of your studying over the weekend. And especially if you know you have a big test coming up, try to do the rest of your homework ahead of time so you can focus on that one test. And last, organization. So for me, I created a whole spreadsheet of like all my due dates, projects, and tests. Mine was color coded and very long, but I also kept an assignment notebook that I updated each week, you know, in case something popped up, or just that extra place that I had, you know, to keep track of all my due dates so that I didn't miss something. So.
Hi, I'm Hana. I'm a rising junior at NYU, and I'm going to talk about dorm life and like dorms versus apartments and stuff when going into college. And I'm sorry, I kind of have a lot of information, but I can definitely keep it under 10 minutes, so just bear with me. Um, so generally speaking, in college, your freshman year will be spent in dorms, and this is usually so that students will be able to develop a sense of independence while still having easy access to things like classes, dining halls, and other students. Many colleges have multiple freshman dorms, so you'll likely be presented with a form in the middle of summer asking you to rank your top picks of dorms. And when looking at this list, it can be kind of overwhelming because you have absolutely no clue what the difference between any of them are. So I highly, highly recommend doing your research in the summer about every single one of the dorms. Like go through the walkthroughs and like look at everything, even make a timetable, or not timetable, like a little table to organize your thoughts on all of them. um, because you need to look out for 5 specific things that I point out here. The first is distance from campus buildings. Anything further than a 15-minute walk doesn't seem like that long, but it feels like an inconvenience when you don't have, especially when you don't have campus memorized, and it makes it hard to stop at your room in between classes. Air conditioning, this is not that important if you live in an area where it doesn't get super hot in the summer, but it is really important if it gets super hot in the summer. Like in New York, early fall and late spring, it can reach like over 90 degrees. So I definitely prioritize seeing if my dorm had AC or not. And if none of the dorms have AC, I'd recommend investing in a fan, either like a big one that you can put in the room, or like even a small one that you can just point at yourself when you're sleeping. Also elevators, if you go to school in the city, or if the dorms have like more than 4 floors, it makes moving in really easier. Also, there are going to be different types of rooms, so consider what kind of room you want. Like, do you want a single? Do you want roommates with single rooms and a common room in the middle, or do you want to share your room with someone else? Honestly, you won't get much choice in terms of what rooms, like what room or how many roommates you get. But if you rank dorms with room styles that you like better on the survey, then it'll increase your chances of getting your preferred type of room. Also common areas, sometimes your roommates will be really noisy or sleeping when you want to study. So having a nice common area in your building is super convenient. Tim, can you? Oh wait, oh yeah, this is just like an example of what it looked like when I Googled like NYU residence halls when I was a freshman. And obviously like it makes no sense. Like all you get is the name, so it really means nothing. So this just shows like how long you're gonna have to spend like researching each of the different residence halls, but trust me, it's worth it. And then can you click again? Yeah, so this, when I was applying to, or when I was trying to figure out what dorm I wanted, I didn't really pay that much attention to common rooms because I didn't think it mattered. But I spent a good like maybe 50% of my time in that dorm in this room. It was super useful, super good for focusing. So if there are some dorms with nice common areas, I would really recommend looking into those. Next slide, please. Okay, so all right, so depending on what college you go to, you'll either have the option to request roommates or have random roommates. In both cases, it's really important to be honest. When requesting roommates, if you don't already know them, talk to them a lot over social media. Some colleges even have websites where potential roommates can meet and chat. Ask them about their sleep schedule and cleanliness, because it will come up at some point during that year, whether you like it or not. If you're choosing random roommates, you're probably going to be given another form to fill out about your living habits, and make sure you're as honest about them as possible. If you sleep at 4 a.m., say that. And if you're messy, say that, because they're really going to try and find someone who matches your schedule the best. There is, however, a chance that you and your roommates will living habits are not compatible, but that's not the end of the world. And there are plenty of ways that you can compromise them. Just make sure that you're open and honest about the conversation, even if it's awkward. And one way to avoid this kind of confrontation is to make a list of house rules when you first move in. This is an easy way to set boundaries without any of them being broken. Also, remember to be respectful. It's their room too, and just asking them or sending them a quick message if you want to have some people over at night, or if you aren't sure if food in the fridge is up for grabs, can save a lot of stress for both sides. So if they're asking you, try to compromise and keep peace. Like, for example, if you're studying and your roommate wants to bring some friends over to watch Netflix, you can, and you have access to a common room, consider moving to the common room. Also, if you're messy, just keep it to your side of the room. I feel like that's kind of an unspoken rule to not make anyone mad at you. And lastly, try to be friends. It's a lot more fun rooming with friends than strangers. And Tim, can you click? And again, these are this is me and my freshman year roommates. There were 5 of us and we only had 2 rooms, and somehow it worked out really well. And I'm still close friends with all of them, even though I don't live with them anymore. Well, I live with one of them now, but yeah, okay. And okay, so apartment life. So you've decided that you want to get an apartment, but the first thing I want you to consider is, are you sure? Because a lot of college students are jumping to move out of the dorms the moment that they leave freshman year because it seems more fun. But consider the benefits of dorms. Dorms has security, meal plans, so you don't have to rely on grocery shopping and cooking all of your meals, and reliable rent, which I'm going to discuss a little bit later. When apartment hunting, you have to consider more than what you usually would take for granted in the dorms. For example, aside from rent and how long your lease is, you need to check the prices of Wi-Fi, electricity, and water. Also, you need to do your research to see if the Wi-Fi is good, because that's important for school. And yeah, I also wrote a little bit about noting if there is in-unit or in-building washer and dryer, because that's just, I guess, a convenient thing. Also do a lot of research on the location of your apartment, especially check the crime in the area, especially if there's no security guards or some sort of secure entry system. And no matter what you do, watch out for the scams, because there's a lot of websites that pose as apartment hunting websites that will take your deposit money and run, which can be like up to $1,000 or even more. So you have to be super careful. Make sure to look up the reviews of these websites. And when looking for a roommate in an apartment, I would recommend finding someone who you know really well. This is because you need to know what they like, if they can reliably pay rent and will commit to the entire lease. If you don't know someone well and they turn out to be really flaky, you might have to pay late rent fees and stuff. So the stakes are definitely a lot higher than who you choose to be as your dorm roommate. And also, a side note, don't room with someone who you're dating, or don't get an apartment with someone who you're dating, because it seems, I don't know, I feel like it sounds obvious, but when you're, I guess, in the moment, I had a lot of friends who were dating people and then tried to get an apartment together, but then they ended up breaking up. So one of them is like, I know a couple, one of them like ended up staying home because of COVID, because she didn't have a place to stay. And then her ex is now living in an apartment with strangers and he doesn't like them. So it can end badly. But even though that sounds a little intimidating, don't let this scare you, because living in an apartment can be cheaper if you do the proper research. And honestly, I think it's more fun than a dorm. It also helps you mature and stuff. And so, yeah, Tim, can you click once? This is one of my roommates. There are also 5 of us again in my apartment. This is us after we built our dining room table. Can you click again? And then we have a little fire escape. So this is me and one of my best friends. We decorated with little fairy lights, so you can do cute stuff like this. Can you click again? So we live on the 5th floor, which does not get easier. Trust me, I guess that's another tip when you're looking for an apartment. If there's 5 flights of stairs and no elevator, it doesn't get easier. So I made a bet with one of my roommates, and I made him carry me up the stairs because we had just gotten done with biking. So yeah, and then one more. And then this is me and 2 of my other roommates. This was the day that we moved in, and yeah, we're just sticking our head outs from the room, but I thought it was cute. So yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, my name is Seungmok. I go to Northwestern University. I'm a junior. And to be honest, freshman year for me was 4 years ago, maybe 5. So I don't remember that much about what happened. But I'm here to talk about money. Financial stability is something that's super important. And believe me, even if you don't think so, it will be. So I think it's best to prepare since freshman year. So I would just love to share 3 things that I wish I knew when I was 18, when I was a freshman, because I didn't know these 3 things, and I think I'm paying for them now. So I hope you guys um, pay attention to what I say, and hopefully you guys can benefit from it. So the 3 things are: first, to get a job, and then second, develop a habit of saving, and then the third one is start building credit history. Tim, could you move on to the next one? So how to get a job? So there are multiple opportunities, and there are plenty of opportunities, on-campus opportunities, part-time opportunities, and internships, and they all come with their own separate set of benefits. So let me just break it down, each one. So there are so many opportunities on campus. And for example, there's a work study. I know a friend who worked at the library, and all she did was read some books and do homework. So, and it's like a work study opportunity that you can get. Actually, the state pays for it, and then the college covers the other half. So it's super convenient. The benefits, I wrote it on the right side under the Y. I wrote convenient. It's on campus, so it's not that far of a commute. Also, it's pretty low commitment. Like I said, my friend just did her homework the whole time she was in the library. And B, research opportunities. So let's say if you are like a STEM major, or even if you're like a psychology major, I think getting a research opportunity at laboratories, sorry, is a good learning experience, and it could definitely improve your resume. Second one is part-time opportunities out of campus. I think working at restaurants and tutoring are the 2 major ones that college students often take advantage of. And the restaurants, they probably pay a little over minimum wage, but it's fun. It's off-campus opportunity. And tutoring is very high paying, oftentimes going above $15 to about $20 an hour. So you can definitely look for those opportunities. And third, but not least, is internships. And getting an internship early in freshman year might not be something that you have in your mind, but I think it's definitely something you should consider, because it sets you on a very clear path towards your the career that you want to build. So all these jobs, I think it's important because not only does it give you a sense of financial independence, but it also provides you with strong resume that you will definitely need in the latter half of your college life, like junior or senior year, when you're applying to jobs. And then the next slide. I think this is one thing that I wish I knew when I was 18, and it's to develop a habit of saving. Whenever I would get allowance from my dad, or if I would get scholarships, I would be so busy spending it all, and I would not save a single penny. And I regret that so much. And I know saving is not something that you guys all have in your mind, and especially retirement is not something you have in your mind. It's probably 50, 60 years down the line, but I'm telling you that it's super important. So I definitely recommend opening your own checking or savings, or both, checking or saving accounts, and definitely open a Roth IRA. So if I know that all the other Hana and Samantha, they all gave really practical advices, and I really like that. And I'm here to give you another practical advice that you should definitely have set in your mind by the end of this presentation, and it's to open a Roth IRA. So what this means is it's a retirement account, and I know you guys are not thinking retirement, but it's a great way to invest and get into a habit of saving. And I really believe in this power of compounding. And what compounding basically is you you start with your principal amount of money, and then you get interest, and then the amount that you're getting interest in the future is the principal amount plus the interest. So basically, to put it in simple terms, your money is basically making more money. And through investing in a Roth IRA, your money goes tax-free. So if there's one thing you take away from my presentation, it's to open a Roth IRA. I hope I did this when I was 18, and I hope you guys don't make the same mistake that I did. And famously, Albert Einstein, the smartest guy that we all know, said compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it, and he who doesn't pays it. So all the freshmen going into college, Jeffrey, Michaela, Matt, and David, and Annette, I hope you guys all make a Roth IRA but before you start your freshman year. And to the right, I just listed some fintech brokers that you guys can use to open it. And then the next slide.
Annette is Ashley.
Oh, Ashley, sorry about that. And the third is start building credit history. And this is really, really important because this is my personal experience. Hana talked about getting an apartment, and I tried to get an apartment, but I couldn't because I had zero credit history. And so if you, let's say you live in a dorm in your freshman year, and then you decide to move out and go live in an apartment off campus, they will ask for your credit score. They will check your credit history and determine if you are going to be accepted into their off-campus apartment. But I didn't have it. So it was very hard for me to get an apartment on my own. But thankfully, I had my parents, and with my parents' credit history, I was able to kind of piggyback off of their credit history. But to prevent that from happening, what I strongly recommend you guys to do is create a credit card. And I will get onto that later, but let me just list some benefits of having good credit score that will pay in the long run. It might not seem like it's that helpful in the short term, but definitely it's going to help in the long run. And it's easier time renting an apartment, like I said, and then good rates on cars and homeowners insurance and I'm sure Miss Jenny and Miss Christine can definitely vouch in, but it's very expensive. And if you have good credit history, it's going to be much lower. And it's cheaper to borrow money. This is also something you guys might not understand right now, but it's definitely going to pay when you are a little older, and just helps you better prepare for the future. And then the next slide. So you guys, so I was trying to apply for credit cards. This is my personal story, but I didn't have any credit history because I didn't have credit cards. So it's like this paradox where in order to get a credit card, you need credit history. But in order to build credit history, you have to have credit cards. So it's like a loop. So there are multiple ways you can get out of this loop and start building credit history. And the easiest way I would say is being added as an authorized user. So if all of you guys have parents who have credit card, I'm sure, you can request to join in as an authorized user. And by doing that, basically their credit history kind of transfers into yours. So whatever they have as their credit score is going to be yours after a couple months. And that's what I did for me, and it worked perfectly. Or get a secured credit card. So a secured credit card is basically a debit card. It has spending limit based on the amount you deposit initially. And I know I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to explain this further if you guys reach out to me later. But the next slide. So basically, I tried to share what I could. I tried to share things I knew when I was 18, but maybe that kind of drove the focus off of what it's going to be like in college. So I'm going to use my good friend Josh's slides to explain what financial experience is like going to be in college. Let me just read it. So the key takeaway here is financial responsibility is a habit. And I cannot agree more with that term because I didn't have good habit when I was in freshman year and sophomore year. It was until much later that I started developing this financial sense, and I start thinking back and regret the decisions I made or regret things I didn't do. So it's best to start early, like Roth IRA, credit card. It's best to start early, and prioritizing and managing your expenses to save money is going to pay off in the long term. And saving money to use it how you want. Practice for future money management. And I believe, and Miss Jenny believes too, that you guys are all going to be making a lot of money in the future rather than right now. So if you build up little tiny habits since your freshman year, you're going to be much more stable and much more prepared when you're handling and dealing with large sums of money. And then the next slide. So small steps. Like I said, this is cliche, but I think it's a marathon, not a sprint. So I don't think it's necessarily healthy to get into this habit of crazy saving. So sometimes I tend to do that. Let's say I spend $500 over what I had budgeted for this month, then I would just like starve. I know this is not healthy and I don't recommend it, but small steps make big changes, I believe, in the long term. And this is a marathon, not a sprint. So I would love for you guys to develop small habits that's going to turn into your lifestyle eventually. So these are some minor points, but determine how much money you have. So recognizing the state you are in is very important. And then how much you want to spend or save. So set your personal goals and then set aside as much money to save, invest as possible. It could be 20% of your paycheck from your first work experience. Or in my case, I got allowance from my parents, so I decided to save 50%. So whatever amount you determine for yourself is what you're going to be saving for a very long time, and it's going to pay off. And do this according to your priorities and what you want to do. So this is kind of counterintuitive, but there are certain areas, I'm sharing my personal experience again, but there are certain areas where I tend to spend a lot of money in, and there are certain areas where I save. And I'll give you a clear example. And it's very hard to determine the fine line between those two areas in freshman year because oftentimes a lot of people don't have their priorities straight. So what I spend a lot of money on is food, getting healthy food, going to a good grocery store to get organic food is something that I am not afraid of spending money on because I think it's also an investment for my health and for my future. And I don't think it's a waste of money to buy more expensive organic products than artificial manufactured products. But at the same time, I am really, really, what's that adjective? Saving money. Like I'm very stingy, I guess. Yes, I'm very frugal on expenses of entertainment. So let's say you guys have subscriptions to like Netflix, Spotify, Hulu, Amazon Prime Videos, etc. I cut down everything because I just don't prioritize them. But honestly, it depends for everyone. And whatever you do, just make sure that you have your own priorities. And especially freshman year, it's hard because you're still in the process of finding out what you like and what you don't like. So don't be afraid to invest a lot of money into what you like. But at the same time, make sure that you have some sense of saving from cutting down expenses of what's not that important to you. So that's all for me. If you guys have any questions, I know I spilled a lot. If you guys have any questions, I'm here after. Oh yeah, last slide, living out the budget. It's basically what I shared so far. Honestly, I didn't write the slide, so I didn't even read it, but I think I'll give you guys some time to read it. Yeah, it's basically, it covers everything that I shared, keep track of expenses. So big part is setting your priorities straight and then evaluate and adapt. So depending on your financial situation. So if you're making money, obviously, then you have a lot more budget to save or to spend. But if you're not working, honestly, you are not, you shouldn't be that financially free, or else you're going to end up in a lot of debt. And I think I saw in the chat history, someone said, make sure you pay off all your credit card debt. And that's really important. Again, the power of compounding not only works for investing, but also for credit cards debts as well. So if you don't pay off your debt in time, it's going to accumulate into something much bigger and it's going to be harder to deal with. So yeah, that's all for me. And I think next up is Tim.
Thank you, Seungmok. So yeah, now moving on to a very important factor and aspect, time management, something that a lot of people struggle with. And, if you tend to procrastinate a lot in college, or sorry, in high school, once you enter college, it's definitely, it hits you different, hits you in a very interesting way, I would say, and something that, eventually comes to at least, realization. But with me, I'd say, in time management, the first aspect I'll be talking about is just looking at using tools and getting to, really a habit, something that Samantha also talked about briefly, but, really it's important to, I would say, use calendars and resources such as like, scheduling or calendar planner. And, personally, I use Google Calendar to, really schedule all my big classes, all my meetings. And I'd say, it's a great calendar, and there are other calendars out there as well that are, pretty good resources. But definitely get into the habit if you don't really use a calendar, which I wouldn't say, some used in high school, some didn't, but I would say it's essentially imperative to use in college in order to really know, what you have upcoming, because, once you enter college, you're, trying to handle and tackle so many different things at once. And so it's really useful. And, I included pictures, not my calendar, but, just something of showing that, things can get really crazy at times. So you really want to be able to manage and, know what you have upcoming and not to be disorganized. But also in terms of having another planner, I'd say it's not necessary. You can incorporate everything into one. But what I do is, I have a Google Calendar, but I also have like an academic planner where, I keep track of all my homework and, my upcoming tests and, what I need to do for that day in terms of homework and assignments. And I say it's really helpful. Just, it's important, something you probably all did in high school as well, to just, keep track of what you need to do and get done for the next day. And, really it's, in terms of getting into a good routine, it's really just taking the time to plan out your day. And I recommend you, do that at the end of every night, or, very early in the beginning of each day. So, that you're well prepared and, can stay on track and figure out what you're supposed to do. And so just take note that you really want to get into a good routine, and it'll certainly, take you a long way. And then moving on in terms of prioritizing, I would say the best way to maintain a balance is, finding what motivates you. And after, you find what motivates you, you're able to really be selfish with your time and prioritize, what you need to do first and what you need to get done first. And, afterwards, you can reward yourself. But if you stick really with that mentality, I can guarantee that it will benefit you, not only during your time in college, but for your entire life as well. And so, not only being selfish with your time, but, learning to tackle and get, the hard things done. And trust me, I know it's definitely not, a feasible thing to do at times. You want to postpone it and, do it for later, think, I'll do a couple hours later, or I'll do it the next day. But, really when it comes to college, when you're going to have a lot of big projects and big assignments, or, anything that's really important, you want to learn how to get those done first, because trust me, you will reap the rewards and benefits, and you won't be as stressed, I would say. And that also leads into procrastination, where it's certainly not something you could easily just address and fix. But if you work on it gradually, what I was talking about, and doing things right away, you can make it a habit to at least know and get the big and important things done first. So yeah. And then my last point for the slide is talking about how it's okay to have fun. And especially for freshman year, freshman year is, the time to explore, to make relationships, reach out to new friends, learn, just what college life is. And, with that, it's definitely, fun is definitely a factor. I mean, don't let anyone who's telling you, once you get into college, you can't have fun, you won't have fun. No, you will have fun, and especially freshman year, I would say, for me, I probably others can attest to, is it's more, one, if not, the most fun year of college, just because it's your first time actually, experiencing what it's actually like. And also because, as you progress, your classes become harder, all that, you have to start looking at the, real world and getting internships and jobs. So that's also a factor, but just taking that into account and, learning that, in terms of schedule wise, you'll learn freshman year that with time, if you just give it time, you'll know how to effectively manage your schedule. And so don't worry, just coming right in, I need to quickly figure out what's the best schedule for me, because I think it's first experiencing, how your classes are, and then adjusting to that, and then getting into a good habit and routine. So don't stress immediately about trying to figure out, your entire life and, schedule, because, trust me, everyone's going to be in the same boat as you. But yeah, going back to fun, just to sort of, elaborate a bit more, I would say don't, like I said, it's good to have fun, but don't constantly waste your time. make sure to, hang out with people and make new friends. Again, don't be afraid to go out over the weekends. Whether it be with, eating, having a good time, going out to the city. You'll need it especially to de-stress at times. Also given, the hectic week you probably already had. But also with the free time you do have, I would say use that to do the things that are also on your to-do list, whether it be with catching up on work, preparing ahead for a test, making plans with others, or, even cleaning your room or doing laundry, which is something I certainly recommend, or, playing a sport or just going out for a jog. So yeah, use that time that you have, not only to have fun, but to, maximize it as well. And to, get those things that you've always, been trying to get done. And also, making sure to get rest as well. Because, again, as you do progress in college, I would say there will be times where you may not be able to get as much sleep. So with your freshman year, definitely make sure you do get some sleep, especially since your body will need it. And then just the last aspect with fun, I would say just, make sure you don't get carried away. FOMO, or, fear of missing out, is very big, especially, I've experienced it a lot. I know a lot of people who experience it, you will probably experience it. FOMO or things such as, binge watching addictions, they're certainly real. And if you lose sight of why you're at college and, you get obsessed with what others are doing, or, where they're going out, to where it's negatively affecting, your own self and your academics and your sleep, then, I seriously recommend you address and look at, what's actually happening, and realizing that, there will be times where you have to say no, no to, going out or eating out, or, just times that would distract you from actually focusing on your academics at work. So that's just my last point, learn to really say no, because it's something you need to carry with you in your life. And then with regards also to sort of, managing your time and focusing, when you should go, back home or stay, at college. I know a lot of people get homesick. I was even homesick for a bit too. It's not something that's, pretty common, I would say. But, while it's okay, I'd say that you also need to learn how to really handle it. And so, I'm trying to address the question, should I go home? I would say yes and no. I'd say especially for, entering your first year in college, and, the first couple of weeks you may experience, you really want to go home because, you're just too nervous or too stressful already, or you just don't like it. I just know that there will be other people, who are definitely feeling or definitely in the same boat as you. And again, it's okay. But my biggest advice is, I'd say that college is all about experiencing and tackling adversity. And, with that, I'd say, while you may want to go back home, I highly recommend you don't, especially at least for the first 6 weeks, because that's really the time where you're trying to get, acclimated into the college environment. Because again, it's a whole, it's a completely new, different environment that you're experiencing. And if you just want to go home, the third week of college, it's really not going to help you when you come back, to be honest. So really just something to take into consideration. And, it will get better only if, you're really able to accept where you are, what your goals are and how you can achieve them. But, in terms of times, I do recommend you to go back home. Definitely a lot of people do it during breaks, which is when you should. So, would it be Thanksgiving? Some colleges, have fall break, especially during winter break. And, it's really nice to go back, I would say, especially to see your family. For me, it's having good food. I know for a lot of people, having your, going back home to your own shower and bed, it's a really nice thing. You tend to take it for granted, but trust me, when you hit college, it's different. And so, yeah, definitely, that's the time when you should be going home. And aside from that, unless you have like an emergency or a reason to. But yeah, time to move it on to Danny.
Wow. Honestly, if we ended the presentation right now, you guys would have learned so much. But I'm here to present another perspective on college dorms. So yeah, my name is Danny. I'm a rising senior at Northwestern. I've been through pretty much anything you could go through in college. I've made all the mistakes. I've had both a single room and a double room. And so, yeah, I think both have great pros and cons. But for you guys who are coming into your freshman year, I highly recommend you guys get a double, just because the general consensus freshman year is that if you have a double and you have a roommate, you have this greater medium to put yourself out there and to socialize, especially during the first couple weeks during orientation. It's always nice to have that one person that you can rely on. And so I guess, how do you get a roommate? Many people search and meet people online, whether that's through Facebook or through group chats. I know some colleges give out surveys earlier in the year to kind of gauge your personality traits, what kind of things you like, what kind of things you like to do. And in that way, they match you up with other people. But also, you can also have a totally random roommate, and that's totally fine. My roommate freshman year was random. I didn't know who I was gonna live with for the next year, and it turned out great. We respected each other's boundaries. It was just overall a great living experience on my side. And so part of that is because we set expectations in practically the first day of college. As Hannah mentioned, our school also gave roommate contracts where you kind of set these expectations for each other, but also just informally just make sure you have your expectations known to your roommate. You're gonna have to spend a whole year together, so you just don't want to be quiet about those kind of things, or else you're gonna regret it. And also, most importantly, your roommate can either be your best friend or not, and that's totally fine. Can we actually move on to the next slide? I've heard many stories where you can actually hate your roommate, and so that's fine. There's other ways to make friends in college. About 90% of people you'll ask aren't best friends with their roommates and actually make friends in other ways. And one of the best ways to do that is during orientation, which is, I guess, the first week of your freshman year. I know Michigan, they have a great program where they have Wolverine orientation for like a week or two. And Northwestern also has something like that, and almost every college does. And it's just a time where you get to know your campus. You go to different activities, different presentations, and you learn about the college experience. And that way you get to make friends with certain groups here and there. And it's just a fantastic way to make friends. Other ways to make friends is to join different clubs and different extracurriculars. So be open to new hobbies and interests. Try out for anything that you would have never gotten able to learn about in high school. You can try new sports, join new clubs. I personally, during orientation, joined like 20 different clubs, from origami club to like happiness club. They literally have a club for anything on campus. You won't necessarily stay in those clubs, but it's always nice to meet new people in that way. Yeah, so you can also meet new people in your classes and also through your study groups. And I found out that this was primarily the main way people made friends, is through your common classes. Depending on your major and what you want to study, you'll meet like-minded people that share common interests with you. You won't necessarily make friends with everybody in your classes, so especially in those lecture halls that have like 200 plus people, but you'll still find out somebody to make a relationship with. And yeah, you could also attend a residential college, which actually hosts a lot of activities for your dorm. So I'm not sure if this is a thing in every college, but you can have like general like residential buildings, or you could also have like residential colleges that share a dining hall and share like a lot of activities together. But overall, don't be scared that you'll be lonely in college. I know it's a really scary time, and almost everyone feels the exact same way. Everyone is just, meeting everyone. You're gonna make at least one friend, so don't be scared, because everyone feels the same way. But yep, that's it for me.
Yeah, thank you, Danny. And just, for our last part to end our presentation, you're just sort of focusing on mental health and mental health resources, especially, with everything happening and going on, in our world right now. And, just my biggest advice I would say is, just please talk about it. And, if you are struggling or, it does happen to you when you're in college, please do not let it, be pent up inside, because that's when it can really hurt you and harm you if you just keep it to yourself and, not telling anyone or, not doing anything about it. That's really when it hurts you and drags you down the most. And so, just really a huge emphasis on really being able to talk about it with someone you can trust or, someone important in your life. And that's why, I recommend, to, when you meet friends, to find a group or to find people who can be, who are trustful or trustworthy, and those who would, actually care about you and aren't fake. And, certainly, if, finding that group, it may take time, in the end, you may be really fortunate and lucky to, find that group, but people like them, I would say, are really there for you, for not only for the good, but also for the bad. And so definitely take advantage of that if you are struggling. And then, in terms of additional resources, there are a lot of, people you could talk to in college, whether it be coming down to your advisors or your professors, or, with a lot of colleges, they have different things such as like college health or counseling or psychological services, or even, especially for those who go to church, I highly recommend, churches, church members and church groups, especially student groups. A lot of them are really there for you. And especially if you stick to them and go to them, you'll feel at ease in telling them, your concerns and struggles with yourself. And, again, they will always be there for you in terms of even just listening, which is really helpful. And a lot of colleges also have like an office of like spiritual life or religious or spiritual life. And those are also, I would say, recommended to take advantage of. I would also say, all these resources that the colleges, that a college offers, they're all free. So obviously, or at least in my point of view, most of them are free. So take advantage of them, but just know, and this is also from personal experience, that at times they can be a hit or miss, with if it comes from the college. Sometimes you may go, see a counselor, and like the counselor may not help you at all, and you may just be like, okay, like, it happens. So just be aware of that, and just know, not everyone's gonna fully understand you or know what's, how to actually help you. And so again, just take that into account and know that, again, what it really comes down to is, also just continuing to speak out about it and finding those, you trust who actually care about you and can listen. So yeah, and with that concludes the end of our presentation. So I will also send a link to the presentation for you guys to all use as a resource. And some of them also may have some speaker notes on the bottom. I know mine did, for more information as well. Let me know if this link does not work, and then we can move on to Q&A.
All right, thanks for adding that link. So this link is for this document, this presentation, Tim?
Yes, should be.
Okay, and then I know some of you guys, the presenters, you said that we could contact you if you had questions. Would you guys be willing to, was that in the doc as well? I'm not sure. Seungmok, we might reach out to you for financial advice.
I can definitely add it into the document. And I think everybody else will be willing to.
All right, any questions? We left about 10 minutes until 8:30 for any Q&A time. I'll start back to the finances. Do you have any advice? Anybody, actually, I'm sure all of you college students have gone through this, but any advice about, I remember back, there were a lot of credit card companies that, and if we know, oh, we should have a credit card, what's your advice you would give when there's like 20 credit card companies trying to recruit you and try to, bribe you with like free water bottles and all that stuff. Anybody want to say something about that?
I can speak to it, and I'm sure other people have things to share too. But I think I definitely struggled with information overload, and that's something everybody struggles with nowadays. Like Miss Jenny said, there are tons of credit card companies out there, and they all advertise different things. And that's a point. Maybe if you want lower APR, you want to go for something that has lower introductory APR. If you want to go for like sign up bonuses, I know I'm getting too technical. And again, I will share my information. I will share my contact info down if you want to like reach out to determine like what might be the plan for you. But again, it goes back to me saying like, what are your priorities? Do you want something stable, or do you want something that like hooks you in? Because they can be sweet and they can be good too. And I'm not saying that they're bad. It's just, it totally depends on your style. And so it's important to determine like, what kind of style are you? Are you a responsible person who will like make sure you don't spend over your credit each month? And then like Miss Christine said, because if you're not that responsible with your credit card, then you are going to suffer from a long time debts. And it just entirely depends on your style. It depends on your character. So I hope that answers your question.
Would you recommend having more than one credit card?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it.
Really?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it. I would recommend at most 3, but at least 2 for
Why?
freshman year. Because I think just because maybe it's because different cards offer different things. Like I said, some offer like good introductory bonuses, some offer like attractive rates in certain categories, like if you're a grocery shopper, or if you put in a lot of gas. So I think utilizing 2 or 3 credit cards is good, but again, it comes back to how smart you're using it, not about what you're using.
Interesting. Any other questions?
Okay, I have one. Would you say that you developed a good relationship with your academic advisor? Like, what ways did they guide you out throughout your entire college experience?
So could you repeat the last part of your question?
Oh yeah, I said, what kind of like tips or did they provide you with like effective guidance throughout your entire years in college?
With your advisor, you're saying?
Yeah, your academic advisor.
So for me, I'm going to be honest, my advisor was more of there just to help me along the way. And again, this also really just depends on the advisor you get and the college you're at. But for mine, my advisor was, or is more focused on, or before for me, and again, depends on the college, but I transitioned to having a different advisor once I'm in the business school. But beforehand, my advisor was a history professor. And so, she didn't really know much about business. And so just be aware, it really depends. If your advisor doesn't know much, still, just try to take advantage of just learning, anything from, him or her, whether it be just life guidance, advisors tend to be really helpful with that. And just, having a good rapport with them, I would say is, just really recommended, definitely go to them a lot. Even if you don't really like them, it's always nice because, in the end, they may have to give you a letter of recommendation. For me, I needed that in order to get into the business school at Emory. So have a good relationship with them. Even if, they may not be helpful for, your specific career goals or, academics, they're always there to just listen to you, I would say. Yeah, I don't know if that directly answered your question. If anything else you're wondering about that.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
If your advisor is not very good, let's say, like what you said, Tim, can you I mean, I don't know if you can get a new advisor, but you can access your other teachers, right? Other professors?
Yeah, for me, they wouldn't allow me to change my advisor, but I think for, it depends as well, but you can probably try to, if you really don't like your advisor, you could request a switch and, maybe that happened, but yeah, you definitely use your other resources as well. Your college usually has an advising center, which is full of like different advisors. And so, they're always there to help you and be a resource as well as, as well as professors, I would say. So, yeah.
Okay, Michaela asked a question. How, on average, so maybe, how long do you study? On average, how long would you say you study, I don't know, a day or a week? And then the other question she has is, what is a good study habit? If you could share one good study habit each, what would be like your trick, one thing that you could say about that? Okay, if you don't study, please do not say anything. Okay, flashcards and Quizlets. Jeffrey, you say, okay, in high school, awesome.
I guess I don't know how long I study for, honestly, but in terms of like tips, what I always do a couple of days before, honestly, sometimes the night before, because college professors will assign stuff due the next day, I'll write out everything that I have to do. And I know like how much time I think it's going to take me and like how urgent it is or how important it is. And then I'll kind of like list it down and then I'll figure out, okay, like if I'm going to do stuff the night before, it has to be like the bigger stuff I do the night before. If I only, let's say I only have one day, I'll do the bigger stuff sooner so I have more time. And then the stuff that's like smaller and stuff, I know when I can do that throughout my day and schedule it through my breaks and stuff. It's like the worst thing to find out that you like the day of that you have something due and then it's actually taking you 4 hours instead of 30 minutes. So just make sure that you have everything that you have to do written down and how long it's going to take you.
Good.
I'll be honest, like I took a bunch of gen eds this year and did not really study much. But when I did study, like I tried to look through like the PowerPoints that professors had posted and look through my notes. But also like sometimes depending on the class, sometimes you just have to take the first quiz and see, what is on there and what the professor will ask for so that you know like what to pay attention to and what's not important versus what's like you really need to know.
I thought I heard a tip before that what Samantha said, like studying, pre-studying actually saves a lot of time later on. Like pre-studying, like seeing, what did you say? Like before the Monday, like the weekend before, like Sunday before the classes start, you preview the information. Then when you actually have the lesson, then you actually pay attention a lot more. So it saves time later. You don't have to study as much later. Is that true?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend that because if you're in a 50-minute lecture and you have no idea what the professor is talking about, it's a long time to be lost. So
Yeah, if you have extra time and you're like having a class or going to a class that's kind of hard for you, usually teachers will share their PowerPoints like for the entire semester in some sort of like class folder or whatever that you'll have access to. So if you're struggling, I would highly recommend like the night before you go to class, kind of look through the PowerPoint and then kind of try and figure it out a little bit for yourself, enough so that you can have questions to ask during lecture.
That's really good. Nice.
Also, I'd say in terms of studying, highly recommend you find some good study groups. It's really helpful, especially during midterms or finals, I would say. So make sure you find a good group of people you can study with together.
Awesome. All right, well, it's 8:31. Unless we have anything urgent, one last thing I want to say. Everyone should know how to say hello first. Okay, everyone's going to be a stranger when you go to college, your freshman year. Do not wait for someone to say hello to you first. You be the one to say hello first. And I think that will make a huge difference if you're willing to do that. It's you might be embarrassed, but get over that and say hello first.
Can I just add something? So I know I didn't talk that much about academics. I just talked about like financial literacy or whatever. But I think this goes back way back to what Tim said. But like, if you want to get recommendation letters from your professors, because it is really important to maintain that healthy relationship, that ongoing, lasting relationship with your professors. And this is also my personal experience, but I know that we are somewhat in like a remote learning situation, so it's very different from the college experience that I experienced. But have your camera on during online classes. I know that it's not for everyone. This remote learning is not for everyone, but professors really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And for me, like I was in just last quarter, I was in a huge class. It was 80 people. And basically every week I was the only one who had the camera on. And she really liked that. My professor really appreciated that. And she would like reach out to me via email. And she would tell me, hey, thank you for turning your camera on. And she ended up like offering me her recommendation letter. So you never know like what's gonna happen. So make sure, like even in a remote learning situation, make sure that you bring the same attitude that you would to a real in-person class.
Shalom told me that similar situation, she was the only one with the camera on, and at the end of the class, she was given a scholarship. She was the only one with the camera on, and so they gave her a scholarship. No one knew that that was going to happen. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Leaders of Change, for your expertise. And I mean, you might not have known that you were an expert, but man, like you gave such great advice. And I've been telling our scholars this, but we're trying to, like this group right here, you guys are all becoming, going into college. So I hope that we get to hang out like this group right here, like physically, you know, over in our backyard, have another barbecue, or, you know, let's build this network and help each other out. And, you know, like I said before, if any of you guys are struggling in college, like, please call me. My phone number has not changed in like 20 years. It'll be the same. And especially if you're, you know, struggling with, you know, mental health, I mean, let me pray for you. Tell Christine and I, we love you guys, and we're not saying goodbye, right? We're going to continue our relationship until you guys get great jobs and start like, you know, donating, you know, giving scholarships to the younger guys. I mean, we're family. So I'm so grateful for all of you. All right. Well, we went a little bit over time, but thank you so much. One thing I want to say is always have questions. I hope that always have questions. We don't have that much time right now, but yeah, whenever you go anywhere, always have questions, be curious. All right. And everyone got the PowerPoint, and if you guys missed it, then, you know, I could always give it to you later as well. Thanks, guys. Everyone show your camera for, oh, let's take a picture real quick.
Leaders of Change, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time.
All right, I'm gonna take a screenshot. So everyone turn your camera on. Get David, get in here. Okay, hold on. Adjust your lighting if you can, or okay. Oh, oops, I meant the other one. Okay, ready, one. Ashley, where are you? Okay, 1, 2. Look at the camera. 1, 2, 3. All right. Ashley, if you want to stick around, I'll bring Cash here. All right. See you
Good night, everyone.
guys.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Come here, Cash. Let's say hi to Ashley. Come on, Cash. Come here. Good boy. Come here. Hey, Ashley. You want to see Cash?
Hey, mommy. Hi, Cash.
Oh, he's so confused.
Here, look, mommy. Look, hey, baby. Mom.
He's whining. He's like, where are you? Oh, no. Okay. Oh. He's doing good. He's happy.
Have you been good so far?
He's been good, right? He's been good. Was that helpful?
Yes.
Really? Okay.
It was. I liked a lot about like different stuff, especially like with the advisors and then like the budget and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, everybody who I know says the same thing. So I'm like, okay, I need to